At the beginning of this episode, Ensigns Tendi and Mariner run into one of those non-corporeal energy aliens that were so common on the original series, and Mariner tackles it and tries to stuff it in a can until it grants her wishes. Ensign Boimler is proud to announce that he gets to pilot General Corinne down to Tulgana 4 for a peace accord. Ensign Rutherford was enjoying himself doing maintenance in the Jeffries tubes and is looking forward to spending the next few days continuing to work on them until Ensign Tendi reminds him that they were supposed to watch a pulsar together. So to avoid spending even more time in the tubes, he decides to transfer out of engineering. Since Boimler was bragging about escorting General Corinne, Ensign Mariner got herself assigned to accompany him. And they get the shuttle with the blast shield. Rutherford gets nervous about asking to be transferred out of engineering because his colleagues like him so much and he's worried about disappointing them, but they seem fine with it. Also, the warp core on the Cerritos looks huge. General Corinne looks like the Klingons on the Next Generation looked. He doesn't have 4 nostrils like the Discovery Klingons. Also, he has an eye patch bolted to his skull like General Chang. Mariner gets into a fight with him because that's how Klingons show camaraderie, and it turns out the two know each other. Apparently, they did some off-the-books Grey Ops stuff back in the day. I wonder if that means Section 31 stuff. Although Boimler is supposed to take him to the Federation outpost, Corinne wants to go to Little Kronos to get some gach. Apparently there's some pretty heavy security around the planet that prevents them from just beaming down. As soon as they land and Boimler and Mariner get off the shuttle, Corinne drunkenly flies off with it. As Mariner notes, General Corinne steals a lot of things. Boimler is worried that they'll be court-martialed for violating the Khitomer Accords, which is the peace treaty between the Klingons and the Federation. Also, Boimler's speedwalking because Section 31 does it. I guess everyone just knows about Section 31 by this point. They get to a gach stand and the lady serving the gach said she saw the general when he stopped in for some. She says he went north in search of stronger ale. They pass by some Kalons who give them dirty looks because they're isolationist. They were previously on an episode of TNG about how they have sort of a Logan's Run culture. Rutherford tries transferring into the command division, so Commander Ransom takes him to the holodeck for some bridge simulations. But they all end in disaster, so it seems he's not well suited for a command position. Boimler and Mariner get to a part of the planet that looks like Risa, and Boimler is nearly seduced by an Onabaj trying to implant eggs in his throat. Fortunately, Mariner recognized her as an Onabaj because she used to date one to make her mom angry. Also, an Andorian in the bathroom told her that the general is in a bar somewhere. The Onabaj can read minds and tells everyone that Boimler wants to do Jamaharon. It's never been explained on any episode of Star Trek what Jamaharon is exactly, but it's some freaky Rysian thing, and apparently it's what killed Curzon Dax. Rutherford tries joining the medical division, but his bedside manner is terrible because he keeps telling people their odds of dying. Dr. T'Ana tells him to try security instead. Lieutenant Shax puts him in a holodeck simulation in which he has to fight some Borg. He does great at it because his implant has a fighting subroutine programmed into it. Back on the planet, Boimler is in an Andorian neighborhood and sees some Andorians beating up another Andorian and tries to break up the fight. It turns out, though, that the Andorian getting beaten up wasn't really an Andorian, but was rather a shapeshifter thief who gets away, and the Andorians now think Boimler's an accomplice. Boimler then gets frustrated with the fact that Mariner keeps having to rescue him, despite the fact that he's got tons of book smarts. It just isn't as practical as Mariner's experience. He throws his comm badge on the ground and says he plans to quit Starfleet. Shax is excited about Rutherford joining security, but Rutherford misses working in the Jeffries tubes. He's afraid that the security folks will be upset that he wants to go back to engineering, but they're cool with it. Mariner and Boimler run into a Ferengi who offers them transport, and Boimler doesn't trust him, but Mariner insists that he's really a Bolian. He asks the Ferengi for his shuttle code, and the Ferengi pulls a knife on them, so Boimler phasers it out of his hand and he runs off. They find their shuttle covered in tickets, and luckily General Corinne is passed out inside. They drag him out and leave him by the front door of the Federation building where he's supposed to be for the peace accords. Boimler makes fun of Mariner in front of everyone in the bar for not recognizing the Ferengi, but it turns out the Ferengi was a friend of hers, and she just asked him to pretend to mug them so Boimler could save the day and wouldn't feel so useless, thus preventing him from quitting Starfleet. I thought the bit when Boimler said that the Ferengi are the most untrustworthy race to be a bit prejudiced, but it turns out that Boimler's prejudice is precisely what made it so easy for Mariner to fool him. That's the moral of the story, kids. Rutherford tells Tendi that he's staying in engineering so he can't watch the pulsar with her, but it turns out she can just watch it in the tubes with him on her pad. So I didn't like this episode as much as the first episode. It was a bit too frantic and hard to follow. Also, unlike the first episode, the A plot and B plot didn't come together in the end. Ensign Rutherford's forays into other divisions was totally inconsequential to the story about General Corinne. I still enjoyed it though. I liked the Ensign Rutherford story more than the main story because I enjoy his enthusiasm.